Joining me on the line is Jordan Debbink is his name. He is 23 years old, and he's currently the executive director of a small crisis pregnancy center in Wisconsin. Jordan, thank you so much for stopping by South Georgia today.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate the time you take.
Hey, Jordan, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. So, like you said, I'm 23 years old. I'm the executive director of a small crisis pregnancy center that works with women who are facing crisis pregnancy, family issues, that sort of thing. I was adopted from Romania as a child and brought to a full and loving family of 6 kids and grew up with a lot of vivacious talent and exciting times. Have a great set of parents who taught me a lot of values and conservative Christian principles that I now base my life on.
Tell me a little bit about this book that you are in the process of putting together, Heroes of Faith.
Sure, yeah. So Heroes of Faith, never intended to write a book, but have always been interested in politics. And so in 2010, when the wave of new conservative governors took office from the Tea Party, I got really invigorated and excited about what I was seeing, these individuals who were running on principles rather than party lines, and talking about issues and solving the problems to the issues that our country currently faces. And so I started doing some research, and it's a culmination of 4 or 5 years of research. And the book is based for millennials. What I see so much is that my generation is falling away from faith-based principles and talking about taboo issues, if you will. And so I use the faith of these governors in their terms and kind of talk about why it is that it's important to stick with faith and with social issues and talking about how we can solve the problems that are there, and then turn it to the millennial generation and saying, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to be seeing. We need to not disregard the values of the 4 former people who have run for office or the former people who have come before us. We need to use those to focus on the issues rather than politics itself or party lines.
So tell me about these 6 Christian governors now. Did you meet with them personally, or do you just talk about them in the book?
Sure, yep. So I haven't met with them personally. The 6 that I chose were Mary Fallon from Oklahoma, Jan Brewer from Arizona, Nikki Haley from South Carolina, Rick Perry from Texas, Bobby Jindal from Louisiana, and Scott Walker from Wisconsin.
What are some of the most impressive things that you've found out about the governors, or maybe you were surprised about them when you decided to really jump into this book?
Sure. Yeah, there was a lot of exciting things. I used a lot of their memoirs to just really dig into their history and their early childhood and upbringing to kind of get a base of who they were and how that influenced their running for governor and their role as governors. A lot of what I see is, for example, I talk a lot about Nikki Haley and her leading the fight against Obamacare and what that's done to our nation. She led a coalition of governors in signing a letter to the president to ask him to delay, stop, repeal the Obamacare health law. And so she's really relied on her faith and her leadership in that area, in even her own state of South Carolina, trying to do what she can to make health care affordable and useful for the people, and eliminating Obamacare as much as possible from her own state. Another governor I talk about is Rick Perry, like I said, in his fight against abortion. He is the longest-serving current governor, serving 14 years, I believe 3 terms he's finishing up, and he has fought for pro-life advocacy all his political career, and it's an amazing thing to see. A lot of people know about House Bill 2, I believe, with his the House's fight and the Senate's fight over when Wendy Davis got up and filibustered, if you will, against the pro-life bill that was being passed there. He then ordered an executive session and passed the bill in that executive session and signed it. And a lot of just wonderful things are happening in the pro-life movement in his state.
You know, it's interesting with Rick Perry. When you take the fight to liberals, especially on the social issues like Rick Perry has done, they really show their true colors. Wendy Davis has showed her true colors. And an interesting thing happens when they do that. All of a sudden, they become very unpopular, and the mask is taken off, and you really see them for who they are. And I think that's evident right now with Wendy Davis. She has some of the lowest support of any Democrat ever running for governor in the state of Texas right now from her own party.
her own part, and I believe she's being investigated currently. She's got an interesting track record as a personal parent and also as a politician, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and she can't hide from it at all. You know, you were talking about millennials, and one of the things that seems to be a little bit discouraging with all the articles that I read and the different pastors that I talk to is that they're not engaged in the church as they were, let's say, young people are as they were 20, 30 years ago. What do you think are some of the major disconnects right now with young folks?
Sure. Well, being a younger person myself, I have been through that. I have been to churches and out of churches and part of ministry and out of ministry. And I talk a lot about it in my last chapter of my book, which is directed directly at the millennials and talking about why are millennials so progressively religious today versus conservatively religious, and what is happening in the churches that's driving them away. And what we see is churches do not want to talk about taboo issues, and neither do millennials. They don't want to go into the deep spiritual, conscientious thought process that it takes to look at the sin in our lives. We see so many generational sins like abortion and homosexuality and a few other just general things that have become political plays as well. And millennials just don't want to hear that in the church. And so they leave the churches or they don't go to churches. And they don't involve themselves in ministry to kind of avoid that conscience of theirs from making them feel guilty about their views or making them feel like they need to maybe do a better job in looking at the Bible and seeing what it has to say when it comes to those taboo social issues in the church.
Very interesting. Jordan Debbink, tell us a little bit about your website and where we can find it and what we will see when we get there.
Sure, great. Yep, so if you go to www.jordandebbink, JordanDebbink.com, you can find links to my book. There's a first chapter preview as well as a video that I did, a short clip about what the book is about. You'll also find some my blog, Love is Patient, and another little link that sets you up to my passionate advocacy site. And those are just different community ministries that I support or that I have been a part of in Wisconsin. I'm updating it to do some more national ministries that I really enjoy. I think it's important to be involved in as much ministry as possible when you're young.
Jordan Debbink, we appreciate you stopping by South Georgia today. Best of luck to your book, and we hope things go well for you here.
Thank you so much for taking the time, William. I appreciate it.